Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Young here, and today I'm back in our Fortnite video. And in today's video, I have some tips and tricks on how to win more in Fortnite, and as well I'm going to be commentating over this gameplay. And this gameplay here in particular is a 20 kill win I had in duos, and it really should have been a 22 kill win. The last two players pretty much just full send off the last hill. I'm pretty sure I either launch pad or use my redeploy gliders to get to the next zone, and the other players just didn't even build on the way down. They just completely jumped off and killed themselves. So it really should have been a 22 kill game, but either way, still a 20 kill gameplay. And before we get into the video, I have a V-Buck giveaway. If you guys want a chance to win some free V-Bucks, all you need to do is to drop a like on this video, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on my notifications, and leave a comment down below of your Xbox gamer tag, your PSN gamer tag, or Epic account. And as well, if you guys don't already, make sure you guys have me added and supported as a creator. It's super simple to do. All you need to do is go to the item shop, then just tap X and hit support a creator, and then type in my code. It's the same as my gamer tag. Just type in Young Humor and you will have me added and supported as a creator. And alright guys, let's get right to the video. Alright, so in this video, like I said, this is a 20 kill gameplay that I had just the other day. It was a day or two ago. So a very recent gameplay, and one thing in particular about this gameplay is I actually had a really good start to this game. I believe I had about 10 kills when I left Tilted Towers, which I would definitely say set me up to have a 20 kill gameplay, because if you're walking out of Tilted Towers, you're walking off the starting location with 10 or more kills. Getting that 20 kill game really is just going to come down to just living and then winning your fights, because having 10 kills right off the start of the game is going to make it really easy to get a high kill gameplay. And I've also mentioned this before, when it comes to winning games or going for wins consistently, it doesn't even really matter where you land. I mean, you can land Tilted Towers, you can land Retail Row. It doesn't really matter. You can get consistent wins from any location in this game. Because right now, I do believe I have like a 40 plus or something like that, like a 40 win percentage on the season. And I'm beating a lot of players who are just camping in the back of the map, just hiding the entire game. So obviously, just camping and playing really slow doesn't really mean that you're going to increase your win percentage at all, because I mean, even if you're playing really slow at the game, if you're not very good at winning gunfights or just challenging other players, or even just, a lot of the times when I play really slow, one thing that I had always had a problem on was in my ammo count. Because if you're playing really slow, you're not going to have a lot of ammo, because the most ammo you're going to get from is when you kill other players, you down them and you pick it up, and as well your loot could be a little bit limited depending on where you land and where your rotations are. So those are just a few factors that can be really bad. So if you want the most consistent, like, best loot, if you want your scar, you want a, purple or gold pump, you want the consistent, really good loot, you always want to try to land at those higher kill areas, because there's going to be a lot more people, a lot more chests, so there's going to be a better chance that you're going to find those kind of weapons there. So like I said just earlier, it really doesn't matter too much on where your location that you land at. There's just a few things that you want to do every single time that you land. And really the first being, and this is what I do usually when I land at Tilted Towers, because I don't know why, I always get the worst drops possible. So really when it comes to landing at places like Retail and Tilted, I try to aim for a certain building, but of course if I don't get it, I always try to get the next best location to land at. So wherever I can land there first and get the gun first, that's where I'm going to land, because I really think that's going to be very important, because I've had a lot of times where I went to go land at a building, I went inside and I had a hard time finding a weapon, and that all would have been fixed if I would have just landed on a weapon or just went to a place by itself. But if you're landing in those high kill areas, you always want to try to minimize those 50-50 gunfights. Like say you're opening up a chest and they're right next to you, you really don't want to have too many of those, because that's where you're going to be losing games and it's going to be costing you a lot. So just doing things like that and just preventing 50-50 fights all the time is really going to increase your win percentage and just win you a lot more games. So with that being said, you always want to try to get the gun first, and on top of that, finding shield in the early game is going to be very important. And for most of the games that I've played, going Tilted or Retail, there's always going to be one or two buildings that are going to be untouched. And one of those things, usually in Tilted Towers, is basketball courts and kind of like the newsstand garage. Those are the two places where if I get a really bad job for everything, most people don't land there because there's the least amount of loot. But basketball courts really isn't that bad of a place to land at, because there is two chests, and the garage also has a chest in there. So if you hit two of those spots, you really can come out with some pretty good loot and also some shield. So after I get the loot and the shield, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm always going to make sure I play really smart. And of course, I'm a very aggressive player. I like to rush everybody that I can. But when it comes to rushing other players, I don't just run in the middle of the street just attacking everyone that I see, especially just off the start of the game. Because just off the start, there's going to be a lot of people at the top of buildings. There's a lot of people waiting for you to get into a gunfight to third party it. So you don't want to just straight up rush every single person that you see or every single gunfight that you get into. So if I see the player on top of L's, one thing that I can do instead is I can go on the top of brick and then try to get shots from there. Or I could just try to go for high ground initially, and that's normally what I'm going to do, especially if I'm playing like, solo squads or solo duos, and I see people at L's. What I'm going to do, first of all, the first thing that I'm going to do is go for high ground. I'm going to go to the top of L's, and then try to make my play from there, and it really is just about how you play it, and not really where you land or where you go to. And that's such an important thing to think about, because in this game you really can win a lot more games and have a really high win percentage with any sort of play style. Whether you play a little bit slower, maybe you play really fast, it really doesn't matter too much. But as long as you have a really good play style and you know how to play the different situations and you know how to play it right, you're going to be able to win a lot more games than a lot of players who maybe even play a little bit slower, that really just don't have the best play style or the best decision making. And here in this game is something that I've been using quite a bit recently, and the redeploys. And the reason why I've been using the redeploys lately and a lot of the times is because in situations like this where I'm finding a 1v2, I can push for high ground a lot more aggressive and a lot more higher than I normally would be able to, because if I didn't have redeploys, if I got shot down or if I got shot out, I'd be in a pretty bad spot, because if I got shot out and I was pretty high up, I could be losing 50, 60, or even 70 damage worth of fall damage, which really is a ton of HP. And if you're going to win a gunfight against multiple players and you're already down 50 or 60 HP to fall damage, it's going to be very hard to win that gunfight. And for me, and I think a lot of players have the same problem as well, is it's not really that much of a problem to go for high ground, or at least to get high ground. It's just worrying about getting shot out, getting RPG'd, getting deagled, and just getting knocked down overall. So just having those redeploy gliders in your inventory is going to save you a ton and allow you to push for high ground a lot higher and a lot more aggressive than you normally would be able to. Because if you didn't have it, I mean, the max I would go up above any players at all, or pretty much the max height that I would even go up, I would say maybe 6 or 7 stories at most. But if I do have redeploys, I can push for 8 or 9 and just constantly have the high ground to get shots on the other players, which is going to put me at a huge advantage in a lot of spots. So running the redeploy gliders is definitely a go-to for me. And so here I'm going to be approaching the last two teams just right after this kill. So the last two teams are a little bit on the hill. I think there was another team that was kind of behind me to my right, but I did have a team right in front of me on this hill. And just because it had an RPG, it's going to be very difficult to go for high ground. So what I want to do is I wanted to build up a little bit, and since I was building up, I wanted to try to give myself a little bit of angle on it. And because I did have the redeploy gliders, I can build up and get that angle. Otherwise, I would definitely not have been able to do that. And one thing that I was doing here is I was building up just high enough to make it where so the guy above me had kind of a bad angle on me or had a rough angle to shoot at me. And at the same time, if the player below me, his teammate, were to go for a shot on me, I would still have high ground and still have a pretty good shot on them. And at the same time, not just get sprayed out from the guy above. So of course the last team goes for a push on him, and I get a ton of tags on his back for a lot of shield on him. And right here I got super lucky that guy didn't just suicide RPG, because if he would have suicided me with the RPG, I would have no HP at all, and I probably would have ended up losing this game. I went for the high ground push on this player, I was able to knock him, and with the zone coming in, his teammate was going a little bit to my right, so I get the finish on that player. So now it is a 1v2, and so these players, I was getting a ton of tags on them when they were flying over, so I was knocking them for a lot of shield. So at this point, you guys are about to see, I'm going to go to zone, and the first thing that I'm going to do is go for high ground, because I have those redeploy gliders, and as well, when you're going up against multiple players, you always want to try to have high ground. So these players got over here first, so they did have that little bit of an advantage. So at this point, I'm pushing up for high ground as much as possible. And after this guy blocks me off, I tried to do the thing where I jump around the side. I messed up, but I ended up going around, and from here I did have high ground. I get quite a bit of tags on this player. He had about 60 HP or so, and I could have rushed him if I really wanted to. If I had a deagle, I would have for sure rushed him, but since I had an SMG, I just wanted to keep high ground. So at this point, I'm just sitting at high ground waiting for the other guy to peek, and most of the time other players would peek in this situation, but this guy was just really content with sitting behind his builds. So here I was sitting back and looking at the timer for when the zone comes in, and I know as soon as the zone comes in, it's going to be very difficult to go for shots on the other players, because if you're trying to shoot other players while the zone's also coming in, it's just a big problem and super annoying to deal with. So I wanted to go for a little bit better of a push. So both these players dropped down, and so I'm looking for them but not fully committing to a challenge. challenge, I still had plenty of mats, so I really wasn't worried. So here is a really good spot where I could use one of my gliders, or as well I could use one of my launch pads. So what I was doing here is I was using my glider, but the one thing that I made sure that I did is I redeployed it late, which is going to make it a lot harder for the other players to get tags on me. So I jumped down, and those players don't build at all, they just fall off their builds, and both of them died of fall damage. So super unfortunate because I really wanted the 22 kill game here. And with that being said, that's a wrap up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys liked it, and if you guys could, drop a like on this video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on my notifications, notified for every single new video. And alright guys, I'll see you next video.